Hey, welcome everybody to the Synapse Philosophy Group. I'm Dr. Haig John, your host. And we've got Scott Little, Barry Hobbs, Jake Jones, and we're covering the country with amazing chiropractic philosophy. We're on D.D. Palmer's 1910 book, The Chiropractors Adjuster. We're going to start with a little beginning. It's good to we're getting back to it again because we take it in chunks because it's so chunky. It's a big 1,000-page book. And on to start off again, it's good to read the story about Harvey Lillard and the first chiropractic adjustment. With on page 408, we're going to read the first. It's a very big paragraph, but it's the first paragraph, and then we're going to skip to page 465, so everybody knows that. Okay, I'm going to begin right now. Here's Alan. Let me just let him in. There we go. First chiropractic adjustment was given. The first chiropractic was given Harvey, it should say two. There's no two in here. It's not my mistake. To Harvey Lillard, September 1895. The principles upon which chiropractic is based lie in that first vertebral adjustment given by me. For years, I had questioned physicians and others, asking what difference was there in two persons who were similarly situated that caused one to have certain ailments while the other remained free from it. Alan, just so you know, we're on page 408, okay? The important question was answered by the discovery that displaced sub-luxated vertebra impinged upon nerves, which are but tubular cords of the same substance as that which compose the brain and spinal cord. And those who functions a spinal cord and those whose functions are to convey impulses and sensations to and from the nerve centers. This pressure caused by projections, I like that, modifies the force of innate desire. Therefore, disease is but aberrated impulse, increased or decreased from that which is normal. If it was so, in this case of deafness, why is it not for other diseases? Disease is nothing more nor less than functions performed in either too great or too little degree. If we are performed in a normal or natural amount as desired by innate, we have health. Pressure on nerves causes irritation and tension with deranged functions as a result. Why not release the pressure? Why not adjust causes instead of treating effects? And he says, why not at the end of that? Now, there's a whole bunch from this section on. The next page on 409 is called tuberculosis. It's not very exciting. And we're going to move on from some of that. And we're going to skip to page 465. Let me get my marker. To page 465 and start with the top of this paragraph is called chiropractic. A darn good place to begin, wouldn't you all agree? Does anybody have any insights you want to say anything about what I just read?
Only to point out that Samuel Weed, Reverend Samuel Weed, who named chiropractic, was also a graduate of Indiana University, as am I.
Excellent. I did not know that. Jolly good show.
It was merely a seminary at that time, but
well, I would like to know what year, who knows what year Samuel Weed named chiropractic? Barry, do you know?
I believe it was 1895 or in 96. I'd put money on 96.
I think it was a little bit afterwards myself.
Yeah, I think it was the spring of, and I think he got adjusted, the fall of 95.
Let's find clarity on that, but I think that's what I was thinking as well. So let's find out. That's a good thing to find out for our next journey around it this week. Alan Lichter, it's so nice to see your face. I get a good feeling of D.D. Palmer around when you have that cool beard, man. I'm just jealous of it. All right. It's so
So
good to be back in D.D. Palmer. I wanted to start with a bang. Go ahead, Barry.
I have a feedback. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the thing that really stuck out to me is when he was talking about the nerve cord, he says the same substance. And I was thinking of, like, instead of hard tissue, I was thinking of substances and the liquid, the energy, the tone, the 3D, the 4D stuff that, of course, DD knew about as the brain and spinal cord. So it connected that outside stuff with that inner world that runs everything. I thought that really stuck out to me. And then I heard him say innate desire. And I said, boom, there he is talking about Harvey Lillard. And in the Harvey Lillard story, he talks about innate. So there's the word innate from the very beginning. And then he talks about function performed, not feeling well, function performed. And then he talks about as desired by innate, we have health. So if she chooses, she'll express it as health. If not, she's keeping us alive 24/7.
Yep. I thought that innates as innate. It's right here. This pressure caused by projections modifies the force of innate's desire. Yeah, I thought there was a lot to that. Awesome. Thanks for bringing that to light too. Innate's desire. And then he also says, where did I find it? Pressure causes an irritation with deranged function as a result. Why not release the pressure? It's like, come on, have some logic. It's logical. Chiropractic, someone posted something recently about evidence-based. In reality, chiropractic is just purely logical. If there's a pressure on the system, you function better without that pressure on the neural system. Even if you're talking about neurotransmitter or CSF or any part of that.
Well, if you think about it, this is also physics and science too. Projections by modified force. This is science. This is projections. This is what they talk about building rockets up there by your alley.
There we go. Exactly. Okay, Dr. Mack is coming in. We're getting some people showing up. Now, why do you think, I'm still on this one, that important question was answered by the discovery that displaced. Now, he has subluxated in parentheses, separated from, and it's sub-luxated in parentheses. Why wouldn't he have it as subluxated vertebra? Maybe because he says displaced and, he doesn't want to be redundant in putting subluxated vertebra, impinged upon nerves, and the tubular output and all that stuff. Why would he separate subluxated and displaced and putting it in parentheses? I feel he was really beginning to understand the word subluxated, and really trying
he was creating the word.
Yes, 100%.
It was, a luxation was a dislocation, and he's going, this is displaced. It's not really dislocated. It's only a little bit, so it's subluxated.
Less than a luxation. Yeah.
True. Yeah. This is all at the development of this term with terms used before, such as luxated and subluxated, full word in medical terminology, with the joint being out of place, like a shoulder. However, also I was thinking, this is also at the time, I believe this book was written by his last wife. He had several, and it was from his notes. So I believe this book was written from that perspective. So we got to put this in context. So if this is his notes and his scribbles about the word, like me writing something, right? I may scribble something once or twice and expand on it. Now, so I don't know.
Barry, I think you're talking about 1914. Those were his notes, and his last wife put those together. Am I right?
Yep, you're right.
So I admit, just to keep on track with that, okay? And the 1910, think about what's happening in the world at that time, right? It's an amazing part of history. So, okay, so we got through subluxation. We're moving on to page 465. If that's Johnny Mac right there on our that just joined us, we're on page 465 of D.D. Palmer's 1914 book. Matt, we're on there
1910.
too. I don't see you guys' faces, so I'm not really sure who you are. But
1910 book.
correct, 1910 book. All right. And we're on page 465. The title at the top of this paragraph is called Chiropractic. That's this chapter. Okay. Anybody have any insights or want to say anything or before I start? Let's roll. All right. Chiropractic, page 465. Chiropractic was not evolved from any other system. Osteopathy was developed from and includes massage and Swedish movements. Neurology was evolved out of osteopathy. Chiropractic and the science of ophthalmology?
Ophthalmology.
Is that ophthalmology?
That's what it says.
Neurology was evolved out of osteopathy, chiropractic, and the science of ophthalmology. It is what it said. So I didn't read it properly. You know, he's laying down the law right now. Because people were saying, oh, you got this from A.T. Stills, blah, blah, blah. He said, hell no. This is original. This is from me, your copy of me. Osteopathy has been found wanting inasmuch as its adherents use of orthopedical machines, drugs, and surgery. The author of
We ought to stop there a minute and say, what is that? That's what's happened to our profession today. Unfortunately.
What do you mean? So expand on that.
Core group here is not participating in that, but there are many chiropractors today that are adherents to orthopedical machines, drugs, and surgery. They're using all kinds of supplements and they're using machines and doing stuff besides dealing with the philosophical adjustment of the interference to the nerve system that is what chiropractic is dedicated to.
Which is based on treating the symptom.
Correct.
So that's the
this system of machines, drugs, and surgery are treating symptoms, right, as opposed to, and that's the thing that's confusing for so many people, is that that all these guys talk about all the things that get well.
Yeah.
But they were very clear that they were not treating the symptom to get people well. They were sure people would get well because they knew that if they could remove the interference, the body would heal.
Body heals
itself. There's a big difference between those two.
Now, let's say this. I took supplements this morning myself, but I didn't call that chiropractic. Okay?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with supplements or anything.
Right.
I'm just saying that that's not part of what we do, and I question people recommending it in their offices.
Well, it is not chiropractic itself, right? I can't say that's chiropractic. You get on decompression, hey, there's value to it. It's not chiropractic. It's defining our terms. And it's not that I'm poo-pooing this or poo-pooing that. It's just that we have to be specific of who we are and what we do, right? Because we have to create that brand of the best that we can, because we have a different approach. I've gotten adjusted by Scott Little. Amazing, amazing adjustment. I just broke my crystal. I'm so bummed about it. And, I enjoyed it tremendously. Amazing adjustment. A different approach than my approach. Different approach from Barry. Different approach from Alan. But the intention is the same. The chiropractic approach can be slightly different of how we approach chiropractic and deliver it. But what we're not doing is treating the symptom. We're adjusting the subluxation to remove that interference so the body can heal itself. Simple as that. Has the best opportunity to heal itself. All right, should I move on?
And Scott, nice post today of that image of you adjusting Karen. That was cool.
Thank you very much.
Cool, yeah, awesome. The principles of chiropractic I'm feeling like Sigafoos today. I'm like, ho-ho! The principles of chiropractic are being developed by the same mind which gave it birth. Let's not forget that. We give Stevenson, we give DD I mean, BJ, a lot of credit. And he's saying, look, man, I birthed it and I developed these principles. And I love those guys. I'm not poo-pooing them either. But we have to realize this is the fundamental ones being thoughts. Disease is the result of too much or not enough function, and that bone pressure on nerves causes impingements. Its origin and principles upon which it is based were included in that first adjustment. And I think this is another BJ part where he's defending himself in a way, and why he spells it THOTS, right? Which is a BJ thing. DD didn't do that. So it goes back to a little bit, hey, I'm the developer of these principles. I'm the developer of chiropractic, no matter what books you write. And this is right after he published the 1906 book, when DD said, I'm not ready to publish that yet. BJ published it, whatever, I think he was 21 years old or somewhere around there. So I think I always keep looking at those nuances. I mean, would you guys agree? Do you see that as well? Or I'm just seeing a little father-son stuff going on there. All right, I'll move on. Chiropractic came into its own good time. Came in its own good time. The world had grown to it. There was a demand for it. It was needed. It did not come to antagonize other methods. It was demanded, each of the others having served its time and purpose. Chiropractic came as an educator. I think that's an important statement right there. I'm marking it myself. I can't find any pens in my house. All I have is crayons. But chiropractor came as an educator. And I think from the beginning, what of all the greats and all the people that came before us, what were they really, they talk so much about is educating our people. We got to educate the people. Those practicing other methods are absorbing its principles and movements as fast as are mentally able. The people demand that medicine and therapeutics shall move forward or step aside. Chiropractic is demonstrated fact. It is a science. As we become acquainted with its principles, founded upon laws and as old as the vertebrata, we will make less failures. We will make less failures. The science can only develop along the lines laid down by its founder. I love it. The principles of chiropractic should be recognized in the formation of the embryo, the development of the fetus, the growth of the infant, and continue as a safeguard throughout life. Man, I love that. I'm going to mark all those. Any insights? Anybody want to share anything? What do you feel?
That's a nod to, innate intelligence there.
Absolutely.
Is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Innate hasn't been named in this context, but what he's saying here is the principles of chiropractic should be recognized in what happens in an embryo that develops into a fetus, it develops into a growth, into an infant, and continues to safeguard through life. That's exactly a description of what innate's job is. It allows that development to happen, and then is to adapt to the external forces as we are alive in the universe, in the world.
Okay. Are the 33 principles the principle of chiropractic?
Say again.
Are the 33 principles, because people talk about being principled, right? The principle of chiropractic, is it the 33 principles? Which didn't come till, 12 or 13 years after this book?
17.
17?
20. That was 27. So is
that 27?
17 years, yeah, is when it was written down.
I'm going to tell you what my opinion is. So this is opinion, right? The principle of chiropractic is the innate intelligence. If there's if there's a subluxation, it's inhibiting innate intelligence from full function within the material body. That's the basic principle of chiropractic. You remove the interference, the subluxation from the neural system, the body functions more optimally. Okay? That's a principle. That's a basic function understanding definition of chiropractic, right? The 33 principles put all of our understandings and definitions into much more clarity. But I don't feel that they're what you would call the principle of chiropractic, because they're wonderful. You know, we've read them in here numerous times. We've discussed all the 33 dozens of times, and I'm realizing more and more it's not the basic principle of chiropractic.
Well,
You follow that?
yeah, I mean, but DD gives us the basic principle of chiropractic. Life is the expression of tone. In that sentence is the basic principle of chiropractic.
Yeah.
I like what Reggie Gold says when he concludes his triune of life. Unless and until the triune of life is restored to its natural state of perfection, life must, of necessity, be diminished. That is the principle of chiropractic. You know, principle 4, the triune of life, is the one principle that can be separated from the other and basically encompasses all of the others. And so basically that one principle says exactly what you just said.
Yeah. And because the 33 principles, once you get to know them, it starts at universal, goes to innate, and then goes to material and puts them together to understand of really what we're actually talking about. It's a great book of definitions, which is absolutely wonderful to give us a solid idea. What are we talking about innate? I've never really, you're new to this. I've never studied any of this. What do you mean innate? I mean, I tell you, Stevenson gives the most beautiful, he's such a well-written man, definitions and understanding so we can think about them more clearly, and then sums them up almost in an epigram, right? But then when he describes it in the we've been reading the senior text, gives us good and light. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, so this is all correct. Because Stevenson learned from Craven learned from BJ and DD, and all this stuff comes from DD. The creation, transmission, expression is the triune, who we know it from Reggie, and Reggie knew it from them, and it all came from DD Palmer, and it's just being regurgitated through Stevenson's point of view, and also the textbook had to be in the 30s. Also had to be our profession needed a book that was literally a textbook all across the board, not just chiropractic physiology and gynecology and osteopathy and all those other green books. They needed a basic one too. And BJ says this at the beginning. Stevie does a great job at bringing all these principles, bringing chiropractic to
Harry froze.
to this level.
Everybody froze. Maybe I'm frozen.
Yeah, so this is a great preview where it all goes back to DD.
Exactly. That's thank you for bringing us to that light, because as we were just doing, we just finished 1914 like the other day. We were on that for a year, I think, almost a year. And how much of the Stevensons did we see in the 33 principles coming out of the 1914 book was absolutely beautiful. And and Stevenson is so eloquently putting them in. Oh man, I don't know what is going on with this. With Zoom. Anyway, Zoom is driving me nuts lately. So,
may I ask a question?
Yeah.
You finish your thought.
No, I'm here for you.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
well, I got interrupted by Zoom.
Okay. I'd like historical perspective on the 33 principles. Were those introduced in 1927, or was that just the first recording of, you mentioned that so many of the 33 principles were precasted in 1914. And I didn't really I didn't start with this group until we were at the end of the 1914 book. So any wisdom on the history of the 33 principles, and if they first appeared in the profession in 1927, I'd appreciate.
Would anybody like to?
Yeah, they're not Stevenson original.
Right.
They're not Stevenson original. DD literally laid the groundwork, brought this out, so the principles are also stated in the previous books and from the previous people before him. He laid them out in a very in a very scholarly way, in Universal as well.
He was eloquent. He wrote beautifully, and it was amazing that he was able to do it what he did. And I feel blessed to be able to read it. So yeah, 100%. Thank you for that.
Scott, also, he was a professional musician, made violins, and was out in Colorado where you are as well.
That's what I heard in Boulder.
Is that right? He was a luthier. Is that right? I love that.
He had a very brief chiropractic history. I mean, a very brief involvement, accomplished the world, but in a very few number of years. It's actually awe-inspiring to hear his story. And apparently he had some crippling disease which prohibited him from practicing, and just all sorts of things. But I only look at it to say, I've been at this for 30 years, and what I have thought and what I have accomplished compared to what Didi accomplished in such a few number of years, and Stevenson and all of these folks, this thing is just absolutely, the result of giants who are thinking. And it also, we're reading 1910. And I think it's reasonable to bring up the idea that also 1910 came out the Flexner report, funded by John D. Rockefeller, basically funded to poo-poo us, homeopathy, anything that was not mainstream medical was poo-pooed in 1910, including us. And John D. Rockefeller wanted us to not think. He wanted people who could work and not think. And so it amazes me the thought process of people like D.D. Palmer and some of these early thought leaders. Sometimes we think, well, they didn't know what we know. Well, no. We don't know what they knew. I would humbly argue.
I just looked up the Flexner report, and I'm going to read that at a later date. Thanks for bringing that to light. We've said this many times. Barry said it, many, many times as well. Everybody has. D.D. Palmer was the most learned man of the time, I would say, of all of human anatomy and physiology, but absolutely of the neural system, and the vertebral column, and I guarantee all the other bones that exist with it. But he researched everything, got his hands on everything he possibly could. Guaranteed he was one of the most learned men of the time in this realm. John McTammany, great to see you, my friend.
Good to
It's
see
been
you,
a
brother.
long time, maybe 2 days. Great to see you at New Beginnings this weekend.
Absolutely.
You have something to add about DD or what we're reading?
Well, remember that he published these after BJ started publishing. So it was a collection of his notes. And the adjuster, again, was written to adjust the chiropractor in their way of thinking. He wrote it to sort of clear out some of the noise.
That's right.
Remember Watkins at the time, that's right around the time R.J. Watkins had left and gone to study naturopathy. So a lot of his early students that he had thought were going to help him take the profession forward had automatically brought in mixing or had gone in another direction like naturopathy. So I think BJ was trying to clear the air and make things clear that he owned and defined this particular profession.
Exactly right. And that's why I think he states that in the beginning. I developed this system. These are the principles I developed. Everything else is something else, right? And that's why, I mean, he had to say it. And I think he was right in doing so.
You know, like John was saying from the very beginning, there were MDs in the first class and the first classes. So just with them being MDs and learning this technique, technically they could go back to their towns, their communities, and could have rode the wave and took this away from us.
That's why he wrote in here, I forgot what page it was. It's one of my quotes. It's impossible to change the medical fighter into the peaceful chiropractor, because he had the experience of trying to do it, you know? And what do? Immediately go open a school, go mix heavy, whatever it is. But yeah, right on target. All right, I'm gonna continue. You guys ready? Anything else? All right.
Haig, what page are you on?
465, 1910 book. I'm on the bottom, the second paragraph from the end of this page.
Good man.
The cumulative function determines the mental qualifications. I'm going to read that again. The cumulative function determines the mental qualifications. Therefore, the conditions of physical decides as the contents of the mental storehouse. We can but take with us when the soul intelligent life ceases to exist. Now, I said that choppily because he's got dashes and big spaces in between words, so I figured that's the way you want to do it. I'm going to read that again. We can but take with us when the soul intelligent life ceases to exist. The same thoughts are the vagaries of the mind.
Vagaries.
How would you vagaries? You'd say
vagaries. The vagaries of the mind. What's vague? What's vague to the mind?
Monstrous
vagaries.
Conceptions that we have conceived. Okay.
So I think he's saying soul. He's saying intelligent life is a paren for soul.
Well, he also talks about the insanity, and that coming through onto the spiritual realm. You bring that intelligence from one realm to the next, is what he talked about in 1914. And that's where he talks about this, the storehouse of therefore the condition of the physical decides as to the contents of the mental storehouse. We can but take with us when the soul is intelligent, when life ceases to exist. The same thoughts.
This is where he spoke about the fact that chiropractic was the development of not only the physical, but of the mind and the soul, man the physical, man the spiritual. He wrote, this is one of the places where he brought up the idea that by making the mind more sane, that made a much more deeper connection to the soul, and you take with you not only the vagaries but the sanity. So he's talking about what you take into the next life. Remember, he talked about the fact that chiropractic was going to answer what happened after you died.
That's right.
So
he said, well, we have lifted the veil of ignorance about what's on the other side. That was in 1914 as well. And yeah, thanks for summing that up, because that does make it a lot clearer understanding that paragraph right there. And, when we're clearing, that's where this chiropractic becomes spiritual. If we're only working on your crick in your neck, but it's keeping you from being truly clear and what your true mental insane impulses are, you're going to carry that garbage with you to the next life. You might as well carry it clean, because you can't keep diamonds and gold. You can only keep your soul. Let's keep that soul as clear as possible into that next realm. The man who had the intellectual capacity to comprehend the displacement of vertebra, the mental ability to grasp the cause and effect of nerve impingement, the power to conceive and discriminate between the normal and abnormal, the foresight and the wisdom to discern the outcome, the genius for for originality, the brain caliber capable of reasoning of this perplexing question, the cause of disease, the sense of touch required to discover a racked vertebra, and the skill and tact to replace it, was the one destined to discover and develop the science which he was pleased to name chiropractic. This philosophy will advance mankind mentally, physically, and spiritually. Wow. I mean, I got to just mark that paragraph. I've got to use that somewhere in my life, right? And you know, you could feel the passion of the man saying, "You're taking it here. BJ's teaching this. This guy's got that. I developed it." You could feel it. It's like someone's taking your baby out of your arms, you know. And I can't imagine what he was going through. And
Get it tattooed on the right foreleg.
the what?
Get that paragraph tattooed on the right foreleg.
Okay. That's the next tattoo. I don't have any actually. You know, I felt the passion. I'm so glad we started again because we've taken a break from 1914 book for about almost a year and a half because we do it in big chunks. It's 1,000-something pages. Coming back and coming again with new eyes. We've read 1914. We've read the 33 principles from the senior text. All of these talked and broken down. And Palmer's Laws of Life, we did quite a bit of it. And then coming back to Dee again, I think is just absolutely amazing to read and just be a part of it. How are you guys feeling tonight? Any insights on what we read or anything else?
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
You know, Barry and I graduated from the Logan College of Chiropractic and didn't get any of this. And I am so passionate about Jack Borla and Sherman College. But Jack told me the other day, he said, I have a huge initiative on campus that we don't use the term subluxation without preceding it with the term vertebral. And when he said that initially, I was just like, oh, it didn't resonate with me. But what we are, you know, our chiropractic vertebral subluxation is completely different than a medical version. As an animal chiropractor, the vets talk subluxation all day, every day. And it's essentially a luxation seen on an x-ray and correctable only by surgery. You know, what he's saying here about racked vertebra and the vertebral column and so forth, just that coupled with what Jack is doing at Sherman College, taking the word health out of the health center. There is no such thing as the Sherman College Health Center anymore. There is Logan University. It's now the Sherman College Chiropractic Center, and we don't talk about subluxation without preceding it with the term vertebral. And you know, I've been more dedicated to those things in my own practice, and you know, not that there's anything wrong with talking about subluxation, but really making sure that I call it the chiropractic vertebral subluxation, or the vertebral subluxation as defined by the chiropractic profession, or vertebral subluxation. You know, that has been huge to me. And this paragraph really resonates with me, just the idea that he was indeed dedicated to the vertebral column, and not the humerus and the carpal.
Oh, wait now. 10% of the subluxations are outside of the vertebral column. That's what D.D. Palmer said.
Well, that's okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
Right?
And Jack was quick to say, I don't care if you adjust a shoulder or something like that, but just please be dedicated to the spine, because that's our domain that's unique. And that has helped me to become more focused in my conversation tableside.
It's an excellent point. John, do you want to say something?
I had a conversation with Jack the other day in the beginnings about that. The idea of vertebral subluxation. Bob Coker brought it up on one of the ICA philosophy committee meetings about the need to use our language. It's a vertebral subluxation. It's an impinged nerve, not a pinched nerve. It is a spinograph for a radiograph, not an X-ray. Being very careful and very clear about the exact wording that we use. Part of the way that you destroy a profession or a culture is to take away its language. And we need to go back to using the language that was given to us by the Palmers so that we can maintain our separate and distinct approach to care and our separate and distinct understanding of what it means to be healthy.
That is so important because our lexicon is small and it's easily shifted. That's what the Romans did. How they assimilated people so well was change the language. And it's not a new tactic. Go ahead, Barry.
Always. Thank you, Scott, for connecting the animals, cats, and all the other the animal world of subluxation and displaced vertebrae with the conversation too, because a lot of listeners, including ourselves, sometimes just think the vertebral subluxations only occur in humans.
You're covering your microphone a little bit. We heard you though, but just for next time, okay? Now, one important thing, I had the same trouble because D.D. Palmer or B.J. Palmer don't say vertebral subluxation. They call it a subluxation, right? For years, I said, I'm not changing it. I'm going with D.D. and B.J. But I send out for x-rays. We do x-ray everybody. I send out for them most of the time. And, they come back and they talk about a subluxation. No subluxations found. And I used to call the guy. I'm like, look, come on. You don't even know what a subluxation is. And we've got some heated arguments with these guys. But in reality, that is a difference between the subluxation that the orthopedic or the radiologist guy talk about than our vertebral subluxation. And I use the vertebral subluxation term now. And I'm not rebelling anymore because DD or BJ didn't say it that way. The most important thing is it has the nerve component, or else it's just a fixation.
It has a mental impulse component.
Correct.
The term subluxation is medical if it does not interfere with the flow of mental impulse. And that, I think that needs to be included in a definition like it is in the original definition. I believe that in this Australian Spinal Research Foundation definition, it is included. If you look at the term coherence, I think you can make that bridge, or diminished state of being. I think you can make the bridge, but a subluxation by definition interferes with the flow of mental impulse,
Which includes the metaphysical aspect as well as the physical aspect of interference.
Well,
I personally always call it the chiropractic vertebral subluxation, or vertebral subluxation as defined by the chiropractic profession. It's wordy, but it's an exercise that allows me to have the freedom of saying, wait a minute, especially in the world where the veterinarians use the term subluxation on a daily basis. It gives me the ability to define it on behalf of our profession. And I have specific definitions that I choose to use. But I really appreciated Jack's dedication and Dee Dee's dedication to the vertebral column and the vertebral subluxation, that which makes us unique.
Well, we've come to our
and going to the, I'm sorry.
Well, we're running a little bit out of time now, and I just want to kind of wrap it up because we're going to start right back here next week at the same time. Page 466. Right at that little dash, a 40-page chiropractic booklet lies before me. Because what we have to do, I hear people misquote D.D. Palmer every single time. They'll read what he is correcting them on most of the time. So we want to be very specific. And we've also taken the time, the other times that we've done it is read only DD's words and not the words of what he's correcting, okay? Because it's very, very important. It confuses people a little bit not a little bit, every single time they read this book, they usually get it in some haphazard manner. So just to be clear, the next time we're going to read only Dee Dee's part. Does that sound good for everybody? And that way we'd have much less confusion, and we get Dee Dee's words, which are very powerful, not the words that he's correcting the other people on. All right? I didn't mean to cut you off, Alan. Do you have a brief thing to share?
Yeah, I was just going to say, talking about veterinarians, I know Bruce Indeck in Massachusetts, I think does a huge animal practice, and he works with horses, and he goes to kennel dog shows all over the country, adjusting the animals. Sorry.
I'm kidding you. All right,
for
guys.
Subluxation.
I love you guys. I'm so happy you guys showed up for tonight's meeting. I appreciate you letting me take the break for a little while to go to my son's football practices. And I am a weekend at New Beginnings with Johnny Mack here and the whole crew, man. We had a blast. I came out renewed as a rebirth. You only come in this world one way, baby, and I feel powerful. I feel blessed, and I feel blessed to be with you guys. I'll see you next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. All right, you guys have a great night.
Take care.